tired of screwing up, tired of going down, tired of myself, tired of this town.
Well, hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to the very first podcast of Eminent Waste of Time. My name is Doug Southworth.
And I'm Chad Shoemaker.
And together we make up Eminent Performance, which is a off-road racing team. We race UTVs, and we are also looking at, there's a couple other things we've got up our sleeves. So you're kind of getting in on the ground floor on what we've got, some very exciting things coming up in the future, and you're going to find out a lot more about that if you follow the podcast or any of the other places you can get a hold of us, and we'll give you that information later. But we had the idea to do this podcast because we like talking about all things off-road racing related, motorsports related, and honestly, it's the internet, and it's free and it's easy, and we thought, hey, we can put our 2 cents out there even if there's only one person who's listening. So here we are, and I thought we'd start off by kind of talking about maybe some goals for the show. I think the over-under on podcasts is, I think it's 7. I think if you make it past 7, then you have a chance of actually running with it, having a following, having an audience. I think 7's the over-under if I'm remembering the stats right. And it seems like a lot of people kind of want to start this stuff, and then after like 3, they get bored with it and they're done.
Well, I'm liking our odds because I'm dumb enough to not care, and like I'm just gonna keep making them. Like there's one guy in like Uzbekistan who'll probably be listening. He'll be like, "I love those guys," and it's gonna be bad, but you'll live and learn with us, I guess.
So that. Maybe I don't want to say like 100 shows, but I don't know. We'll set it for 30. I don't know. I'm just picking a number, 30. We'll make it to 30 shows, and then we'll see where we're at. But we've got to make it past 7.
See how many death threats we've gotten?
Yes,
is that what
exactly.
You're going for? If you don't stop, we are going to come after you.
And let's see what else goal-wise. I don't know. I think it's going to be a lot of fun just to have this thing out there and communicate with people who have been following us on Facebook and the other places that we're starting to get a little bit of a following. And I wanted to use this as kind of a vehicle to invite you guys to discuss with us. I mean, obviously it's not a real-time thing. You can't talk back through the screen to us, but we're hoping that through reviews and email and Instagram, Facebook, that sort of thing, that you guys will give us feedback about what you want to hear about, what we can talk about, what subject matter interests you more than others. And so I think it's kind of going to be a good vehicle for things like that.
Yeah, we know. I know a fair amount of people in the off-road and UTV world, and even some of the race world stuff. Not like NASCAR. I don't know those people, but. We're going to have some, but we're going to have some guests on here to talk about some of their stuff. And I mean, I'm not pushing selling stuff. I mean, we're just going to talk about, hey, what do you like to drive? What kind of off-roading do you like to do? How did you get into it? Simple stuff that we all have that story. I mean, pretty much all of us can say, my first vehicle was a whatever. And, I love that thing, or man, that thing was a piece of junk, and, whatever the story is. Just kind of make, bring, I'm not saying we're stars, but hey, we're just relating to everybody. We're just here to have the discussions and talk with you guys and answer your questions and reach out to people and try and get answers to things that maybe you have and you don't have contacts to get to them. So.
And Chad and I are both big fans. If you haven't listened to the Kibbe and Finnegan podcast, we're both big fans. Go find it. And then you're going to realize just how bad we're ripping them off. Hey, there'd be a goal if we could get Mike Finnegan someday to be on the show.
I would be thrilled.
If Kibbe and Finnegan, both of them. If you guys are listening, if somebody has forwarded this to you, this show is going to be kind of an homage. We're not going to do Dukes of Hazzard.
No.
I don't know that we're going to get into movie and show reviews, but we're going to have some bit segments. We're going to have a lot of sidetrack, off-tangent stuff that's going to happen. So in a lot of ways, it's probably going to be an homage to the show.
Yeah. That would be like, I don't care if it's show 2, like, we have arrived, pull the cord, we're done. It doesn't get better.
That is it.
Kibbe and Finnegan came on. We got nothing else. See ya.
We've got nowhere to go but sideways.
So
And I'm trying to think of anything else that we need to come up with some good segments. And we got a couple ideas. Again, if you follow the Kibbe and Finnegan, they have a "What did you drive?" And honestly, our mode of operation seems to be "What did you break?" And I think that's going to be a very real. There's a very real chance that that'll be a very productive segment for us.
Yeah. Things like where's your favorite place to ride? What's your dream trip? Where did you ride this weekend? We're going to kind of be more based in the off-road world, not necessarily just UTVs. I mean, ATVs, dirt bikes, racing, whatever you got.
Anything you can hurt yourself on.
Yeah.
And I mean a lot. Of course, I fell off your trailer the other day. Messed my back up bad. It's been 2 weeks. It still hurts. So if trailer riding's your thing, maybe that's a sport I'm totally unaware of. I stink at it.
I have to tell you guys the 10-second version of this. I'm pulling out with my truck and the trailer's on. It's just flat trailer. And I see Doug hop up on the back of it. And he's jumping up and down, and I think he's jumping up and down anyway. And I'm like, moving on, whatever. Didn't care. And all of a sudden, he's not there. I'm like, he must have jumped off. He didn't jump off. He tripped over his foot and fell flat on his back off the trailer.
It's on my back. Oh yeah.
Now I didn't. My defense, I did not goose the throttle and try and whip his feet out from under him. It was just he jumped up there, and I thought he was hopping around, goofing around, and I just ignored and went on. And there he is laying in the gravel behind me, and I'm leaving him. So
I busted up my hand. I busted up my back. I got my elbow pretty good. I had flashbacks of being 15, and then all of a sudden remembered I'm 37 and maybe not as spry as I used to be.
Yeah.
I thought I had it, and I did for 2 seconds.
Yeah, until the ground caught you.
Until the ground caught me.
Yeah.
So,
well, maybe we should introduce ourselves, kind of a little bit of our background, and go from there.
So we're both currently in IT. We don't do off-road racing for a living. Nobody does off-road racing for a living. The pros I know barely make enough to put their machines back together.
Let's be honest. IT is paying the racing bills right now.
It is. It is the last bastion of the slightly doughy white guy. But no, so I'm currently working for the federal government. I can't tell you where. Trust me, it's not as exciting as it sounds, but do IT work, and Chad is also involved in IT. He fell backwards into it, actually.
Yeah. As a former coworker used to say, I fell into that butt first. I also work for the government in we'll say a large Indiana university that I can't really name, but you'll get that one.
That was subtle.
Yeah.
I think it adds an air of mystery to the show that we really can't tell you exactly where we work, but trust me, neither job is really that exciting.
I can tell you what I do. I lie to computers all day long, and I tried to convince them that they're real computers. I explained that to my dad one time, and he is not a tech person because he did not understand my job title.
Virtual machines, the black art. But Chad's got a background, and I'll let him fill in here, in fabrication and vehicle building and taking things apart and making things worse, and I mean better.
Or worse, yeah.
It just depends on the project.
So, yeah, I worked in a family body shop. Well, it's been around since I was, born. And I worked in it for about 15 years. And even before that, I was fabricating and building my own stuff. And in the body shop, I kind of took over the fabrication side just because it came more naturally to me. I still did the body work and still did paint work and everything like that because it's a family body shop. They're small. And but I got good at the fabrication and building anything. I also drive our UTV currently. Hey, if we can increase the stable of UTVs to 2, Doug will drive one and I'll drive one. But currently we're at 1 to race. So, yeah, that's kind of what I bring to the table right now, and the nice office to do the podcast out of.
There we go.
That's what I got.
The reason I don't bring an office to the mix is because I'm currently homeless. I have relocated from northern Indiana to central Indiana, where we are sitting right now, and I'm still looking for a house. I'm actually living with Chad's parents, who live just up the road about 500 feet.
That's how you know you've made it in IT and life. I'm living in my friend's parents' house.
It's again flashbacks to like being 15 again. It's all coming back. So we're currently looking for a place, but we've moved down here to give Eminent Performance a little kick in the rear. It's a little hard to be 3 hours away and be really involved in the process there. Again, I'm currently in IT. A lot of my background is in there, but I also spent I don't know 8 or 9 years of my life in the trades as a electrician. And kind of like Chad, I had a background of taking things apart and building other things and always tinkering and always messing around with stuff. So more on the electronic side than the physical, like cars and engines type of thing, but have always been unafraid to delve into stuff and I do all my own automotive work and that kind of thing. And if it gets too hairy, I'll call Chad up and he comes bails me out. So it all works out well.
That's what are friends for.
And on the racing side, I bring about 170 pounds of ballast to the passenger side of the UTV because you have to have a co-driver, and the suspension it's not set up for one person, and you just need the dead weight over there. No,
they require us. That's why I have him. I'm required to have him.
I like to pretend I'm doing something useful rally style, like I'm rattling off, okay, we got a big sweeping left up here, and you need to take the outside line, and watch out, it's tight through here, and I'm feeding him all this information, and I'm pretty sure he's over there like with his wife, headphones on going, yes, dear, uh-huh.
I have said to him in the middle of races before, I hear you talking. I acknowledge what you're saying. I'm not responding because I'm focused right now.
Yeah, like I said, it's exactly like a marriage. I'm sure he's listening, right? So between the two of us, that's the current racing setup. Like we said, down the road, we'd actually like to have 2 buggies going and find some other ballast to carry around. But a little bit of background about where we came from, and like I said, right now we're focused on racing, but we've got some other things up our sleeve, and we're kind of excited to bring that to you, and the podcast is definitely going to be a good way you can keep up with us and our hilarious hijinks. This weekend actually was supposed to be a race. It is going to be a race. We're just not going to be there.
We're not going to be doing the racing thing this weekend.
So we are recording this on September 1st, and this is Labor Day weekend, and so there's a big race coming up. Actually, it's 3 days instead of the normal 2. Typically, you've got, if you're not familiar with a lot of the off-road cross-country style racing, typically you got dirt bikes on one day, quads on the other, and UTVs race at the end of the first day. So if it's dirt bikes first, then the UTVs race at the very end of the day, and then quads take the second day. And a lot of times the quads and the dirt bikes will switch halfway through the season, so they all have a shot at having a fresh track as opposed to always being on day 2.
The chewed up track.
And the UTVs run at the end of the first day just because nobody wants to stay till start a race at 5:30 to 6 o'clock on Sunday, finish the race, get cleaned up, try and get out of there. It just makes the day too long to try and do that.
And it really does take a lot of time to get a broke down UTV out of the woods.
Oh my word. Yeah, there's times where it's midnight.
Yeah, at midnight you're out
there.
So
Saturday night, let's say the dirt bikes have run, the UTVs have run, and if you have a massive attrition rate, a bunch of, especially if it's broken ball joints, stuff that you cannot drive away from. Yeah, it could be 11 o'clock midnight before you get out.
And we start at 6 o'clock. Normally racing, we generally start by 6 o'clock. And yeah, the race is only an hour.
Yeah.
And you're still out there like 5 to 6 hours later.
It can get kind of ugly.
So yeah.
So you want to bring some water with you and some bug
snack.
spray and a snack. Or just try not to break anything. That always works too. So
we haven't done it that way.
That's not been exactly our game plan so far. But there's supposed to be a race this weekend, and we had to pass on it. I'm heading back up home with my wife and kids. Well, I say home. This is home now, but we're heading back to the northern end of the state to visit family. And Chad's got a bunch of other stuff on his plate. We just did not have the time to get out there. So we were kind enough. We went out tonight. We both have some race responsibilities. I usually do race calling and announcing, and Chad usually runs sweeps. So he's out there identifying the broken machines and making sure people get back safely.
Driving by and mocking them.
Yes.
Aha!
I finished. Why didn't you? And so we got out there and got everything set up tonight, and on the way back through decided we were hungry, so we swing into our local Burger King that's on the way back.
You guys, anyone who's traveled, if you travel, you have stories. Some are awesome stories. you will see anything you can imagine on the highway. And you guys who have traveled and gone like off-roading in different parks and stuff like that, or racing, if you travel enough, you will see every wonder of the world on the highway or just off the highway.
Sometimes a full moon.
Continue with your story, fine sir.
So we roll through the drive-thru, we order, get up there, and there's a rather largish gentleman. Man, it's tough to say from a drive-thru because they're standing above me, but this guy had to be 6'2", 6'3".
Oh, he was taller than that. He had to be closer to 6'5", I would guess. Because my son's about that tall, and I'm good at kind of guesstimating how, like a tall person now. I am not tall. I'm 5'10". My son is 15 and 6'5", so I've like gotten used to, he is about X amount taller than me, and I could, estimate it by what we were standing. But yes.
And this dude's easily pushing 300 pounds, 320. He's
boy.
He's a big boy.
He's husky.
The first thing I notice is on the left side of his neck is a tattoo that says Becky. So, Becky, you're a lucky woman, whoever you are. And,
working in such a fine establishment.
And he turns around, and on the right side of his neck, this is where the point of contention came in. To me, I'm positive because it says Becky on the left side of his neck. On the right side, it looks like a fetus, like wrapped up in the womb. I'm thinking this guy's like a real Family Guy, and he's got like maybe Becky's the daughter or whatever, but it looks like a fetus in the womb, like all tucked up like they would be. And Chad swears...
No, it is a microphone tattooed on the guy's neck. Now, this speaks volumes to the quality of tattoo work that this guy was sporting, because if you can't tell if it's a baby or a microphone, that should tell you something right there.
So we're arguing back and forth about what exactly this thing is, and in the meantime, he turns around with his posterior facing the drive-through window and bends over to get something, and his pants are easily 8 inches below his butt. I mean, his shirt is what's covering everything. Well, when he bends over, his shirt is not covering anything anymore.
No, it wasn't.
And I'm all of a sudden debating, like, how bad do I really want this Whopper with cheese at the moment? Like, is it...
Has he touched my food?
At all? What else has he touched before he's touched my food?
So we got Mr. Tattoo Neck with the baby or microphone.
I swear it was a baby, which honestly the microphone, now as we're talking about it, would have been far less creepy.
I still swear it was a microphone.
Now I'm driving, so I'm like 2 feet closer.
He is, I will give him that, but I still think it was a microphone. It may not be, but I still think it was a microphone. And these are the kinds of amazing things that you will see on the highway.
And we'll probably talk about, there's really no racing value there other than we were coming back from the track. And,
yeah.
But it's kind of common. We just, the stuff you see. And
I have so many dumb stories of things dumb that I've done, things dumb that I've seen. I could fill up several hours.
We're going to easily make it to 30.
Oh, yeah. I got way more than 30 dumb things I've done.
We can blow past that.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll make that a segment. There we
Dumb
go.
things Chad has done.
What have you broke? Dumb things Chad has done. Oh, this is going to be a breeze. We got this down.
Yeah.
So there's some background, some things you can look forward to, or if you haven't already turned it off. One of the things we do want to do on a fairly regular basis, I know this is super, super original, but we're going to do the news.
News?
Yes.
Like who got shot?
I'm hoping it's neither one of us other than that.
Okay.
There was a guy that got shot outside the Evansville courthouse just south of here, but that's kind of neither here nor there.
Yeah.
We don't want to talk about that. That's a little too depressing.
Well, we could do our first news one now.
Top Gear-esque.
There you go.
It's time for the news.
The news. We can do a short news clip now.
There's a couple of... the two tie together. First of all, if you have not heard, Arctic Cat got bought out by Textron.
Yes.
Which I think is going to be really awesome for them. Not that Arctic Cat wasn't doing neat stuff before, not that they were like junk, because they really weren't, but Textron makes everything from military airplanes to, well, just everything in between that and, widgets.
Yep.
And you've got that kind of backing and that kind of R&D behind you. Yeah, you're going to be churning out some stuff.
So, Textron bought them, and from what I've been told, they're ditching the Arctic Cat name for the side-by-sides. They're keeping it for the snowmobiles, because for the side-by-sides, it doesn't make sense.
No, it really doesn't.
since when are snowy cats, anything to do with side-by-sides? Nothing that I know of. So they're ditching that, and they're going to the Textron name instead of Arctic Cat. And I talked to a guy, and I'm not going to say his name yet. He may end up being a guest on our show at some point. He's one of our sponsors.
Not after he's heard this mess.
No, probably not. We'll have to get him before we post this one up. But he is a Arctic Cat now Textron dealer. And he got to go and ride the new Textron machines and see the new releases and what's going to come out. That I think it's been like verbally released to the public, but not like, here's what it looks like released. So it's one of those, it's like, this is what we're going to come out with. And right now, for those of you guys that don't know, like, there's not many Arctic Cats of the Wildcats or the Sports or any of those that are in the racing series, because they have like the odd engine sizes. Like, they're lower CC ones that would be in the light class where we are in the 800s and under are 700s. Now, they make a ton of horsepower for their size, but they just...
You're still giving something up there.
You're giving a lot up there. And then they make the 1000, which you would think would produce equally as much power as the other 1000s, but it does not. It gives up like 15 or 20 horse. Like, I think it's like 95 horse thereabouts for the 1000, which is still respectable and still a ton of fun, and they ride great. But the other 1000s out there, like the Polaris and the Yamaha and all that, they're up like 115 or something. I mean, that's too much to give up, and they're just not competitive, really. And I'm sorry if you own one. Welcome to the reality shows. But
we're not going to pull any punches here to make you feel better.
So their new ones, I'm going to call them Textron now. I'm going to have to get used to calling them Textron. They're still doing the odd engine sizes. They've gone to an 850 for the small one.
So you can't race that in the light class because it's 800 on down.
Which, when I was talking to this guy, he was like, hey, you could get one of the new Textrons and I'll hook you up, give you some good pricing on it and all this. I was like, I can't, or it pushes me into the class with the 1000s. And he was like, what? They're going to have to rewrite the classes. I'm like, I don't think they're going to do that.
They're not doing that for just the Textron machines.
Because it's only the Textron, yeah.
Yeah.
And then but their horsepower has gone up. They're going to be in the... I'm wanting to say he said they're going to be in like the 75 to 80 horsepower range. So, I mean, that's like a huge jump from what they were. I mean, I'm wanting to say they were 65 horse before for their lower displacement machine. And then their 1000 is still right around 1000 cc. But Textron has the motor thing figured out, and they're going to be like 130 on a naturally aspirated motor.
Nice.
So... that is like stomping Polaris and Yamaha and Can-Am tail if it's true. I mean...
I'm excited to see if it is.
I am too. And they're doing that on these... Now, the problem is we can't pick up the 850 Textron and run that because it's just too big. It has to be under 800cc to stay in the light class. And that 850 is not going to stand up with the 1000 and 1000 turbos that are out there that it'd push us into that class. So it's still kind of like it doesn't make sense for us to race it. Now, other race series do classify them different, but everything in our area kind of takes us out of that unless we want to travel a lot.
Yeah, basically, if you're an 800 on down, you're a light. If you're an 801 up, you're a heavy.
Yep.
And if you're a pro, you're racing the 1000 turbos, and there's just no question about that. So... yeah, that's kind of what you end up with. But it's going to be interesting to see what they come up with the Textron backing because of just their enormous R&D department and the experience they have across a lot of different disciplines. I think that could be really one to watch out for.
I agree. Arctic Cat already had the suspension figured out. Like, they have nice suspension. They were doing, like, long travel on factory before, like, anybody else was. They were the long travel kings there. And they had that figured out. They were notoriously hard to work on and had like what I will call janky and wonky issues. Like, I mean, they ran. They
Those
did
are all
okay.
technical terms.
Yes, those are fine. You learn those in school that I didn't go to. But they just, it's not that they didn't run. It just developed weird things, and from what I've been told by the guys who've owned them, they're notoriously hard to work on, hard to get to things and stuff like that. I suspect because Textron is a larger company, they'll have that sorted out pretty quick.
I think so.
So I there's high hopes all the way around for me. Am I in the market for a light one? Not likely. It just doesn't fit what I want to do because I already have a light machine. We use it to race, but I already have one, so I don't know that I need to pick up another.
If we're going to go heavy, we're going to go heavy, not the extreme shallow end of the pool, which is what the 850 would represent.
Yeah, if I was gonna buy a 1000, man, it would be hard to convince me not to just take the full deep plunge and go to a turbo. Now, will they offer a turbo in a year or so? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't heard. But I do like the sound of the numbers that they're putting down with that naturally aspirated 1000. So,
and like you said, they've already got the suspension sorted out. And that's an interesting kind of segue there to if I could talk, Polaris. How about that? They've got their 2018 release out there, and it's probably the only big thing they're pushing because the rest of the lineup changes are really just ergonomics issues. I mean, they're nice, and I like it when people tweak things and make things better, but really the dynamics suspension is the big push out there this year for the 2018. So it's about a $2,000 adder to the already
it's actually slightly more. I looked it up today. Now it gave you it's called ride command, ride control. I don't know. It's navigation, and it like displays what your shocks are doing, how much your wheel is turned. I mean, it's like the full vehicle integrated heads-up display on this thing, and it's like a $4 or $5 grand option.
Okay, because it's packaged with all that stuff.
Yes.
So it's kind of like if you have a modern Ford pickup truck, you've got the display that shows you how far you're tilted and how far your front wheels are turned. It's kind of the same type.
Now, I don't know if you can get the Dynamax, the suspension without the display. I wasn't able to really spend that much time
Probably
looking.
not. My guess is it's you go all or nothing on that.
Yeah.
And so I was really kind of excited about this at first until we did a little more research, and it's not that it's a bad product, but really what you're getting is on-the-fly adjustable compression and rebound. It's not... When I first read about it, I thought maybe it was something like GM's...
the ferrofluid.
Yeah, the ferrofluid filled shocks that, it could change the viscosity of it on the fly with electromagnets, and it was going to be fancy and all that.
The Polaris commercial lied to me, and it made me think that. And I feel...
No, that's just really good marketing.
Maybe. They tricked me, and if I was in the market, I might have jumped at it, but maybe.
And it's not that it isn't neat that you have those kind of adjustments on the fly. I'm just starting to question all of a sudden the value for dollar there, because you could go out and, okay, granted, you can adjust that stuff on the fly. So if you're running...
It's adjusting it on the fly.
Well, yes, it's adjusting it.
For those of you that don't know, let me give you the 30-second rundown on what it does. So it adjusts compression and rebound based on your driving selection, like predetermined, like I want soft, I want sport, I want firm.
And that's kind of what I meant by you can adjust on the flies. You can pick from these preset packages.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it is sampling what each shock is doing. I think they said 1,000 times a second, and that could be a made-up number by them. I really don't know. And then it is adjusting based on that. So, like, if you're, going straight really fast and you stab the brakes hard, it turns the compression all the way up to 10. Now, that sounds good, but me as a racer, I don't like the sound of that.
No, you want to know what it's going to do predictably.
If you go into a corner, we'll say you're going into like a hard right-hand corner, and, to explain it easy for everybody, when you go into a hard right corner, your left shocks are the ones that suck up in because all the weight is thrown to the outside. It turns the compression like up nearly all the way to like 8. It's like a 1 to 10 scale, just to fill that in. So the guy who I was watching review this, and there've been not too many people who've gotten their hands on him to ride him yet. He's loving it, and that's fine. He was kind of, not sure about it, and he's like, you can feel it change. As a racer, and as someone who drives him hard, the absolute last thing I want something to do is change midway through a turn, or I don't want it to be like, it's soft and it's hard now, and oh, we've gone back to soft.
And I don't think it's aimed really at anybody who's racing and using their UTV that way. I mean, because really, honestly, for the money, you could buy a really nice set of like completely tricked out Elkas and still have enough money left over to go to the local shock guru, the guy who has been doing it for 30 years, and pay him $1,500 to go through and completely customize them for the way you race, and have a much better result at the end of it. But for the weekend warrior, I don't know. It just depends on how much money you have. I mean, if you got a ton of money, God bless you. I mean, I think if I had the wherewithal, and maybe if I was the person who just won that $748 million Powerball, yeah, sure. What's another $5,000 at that point? But it's not for the hardcore.
I agree with that statement. It basically like a Razor XP Turbo. I guess if they're a turbo, they're all XPs. That's what I've come to kind of figure out.
Pretty much.
But the Razor without the Dynamax suspension is, or Dynamics suspension, that's what it is $19,900. It's basically, it's $20,000.
Yeah.
If you get it with like the ride command and the dynamic suspension and all that, it's $25,000. It's like $5,000. Now these are all MSRP prices. Will one, be more desirable than the other? Who knows? That I'm just giving you numbers as reference points to go off of at this point. But I guess, and Doug and I have talked about this. My real question is, we use these machines off road, and we're taking the racing out of this for a minute. We're, let's just say we're trail riding. We use these machines off road, in the dirt, in the mud, in the water. I'm not a big mud and water guy. It's just not my thing to try and go see how deep I can bury one and then winch it out. That does not sound like fun to me. But hey, to each their own. What are these things going to do in a few years? Is it going to be like...
Yeah, when connectors start to corrode and...
Well, so what are these mystical electronic valves that have to be inside the shocks? And, they're adjusting and they're turning compression and rebound back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Whatever is doing this. Because I haven't got to see them up close, but I'm sure it's got to be internal.
Yeah.
What happens when the valve wears out or the sensor in the valve goes out? Is it like riding around on whipped out shocks that are like there's nothing there and they're just like free flowing fluid?
Or does it turn the compression all the way up to 11 and you're just stuck with this rock hard?
Yeah, I have welded steel rods into my suspension. That's what we got. I mean,
I think the used it'll be interesting to watch the used market because it's going to kind of tell us how people are reacting to that in 2 or 3 years and to see. And the rest of their lineup changes beyond that are really just ergonomics of they've added some electronic goodies even to the Ranger line. They've moved stuff like the headlight switch is now on the left side where you typically find it in a car instead of the center console where it's traditionally lived. And so a lot of Polaris fans are not real happy that the 2018 lineup is really nothing all that special, but you can't hit a home run every time. They've done what they've done. And honestly, I like to see those incremental improvements where they're working on ergonomics, and a lot of it sounds nice to me. Like if you are using it a lot, like Rangers, people typically use those for work.
Yeah.
Anytime you can make an improvement like that and it makes your life easier, it's probably worth it. And I'm glad they're actually putting the thought and the effort into that. But yeah, if you're looking for a huge big change in the 2018 lineup, you're probably going to be pretty disappointed unless you've got really deep pocketbooks.
Well, and there are guys out there, and I've met them and I've rode with them and everything else, that they just want the new machine every year. They're just getting a new machine, and that's fine. That is not me, because what I use my machine for now and how I typically treat my machines, and I'm not saying I'm abusive to them, but I use them.
Yeah, they're not trailer queens.
And myself and another guy had the conversation a couple weekends ago at one of the races that I would have a real hard time going out and spending $25,000 to take this machine out and just thrash the thing through the woods. Now, if you're just, I'm going out to the dunes and going to kind of ride slowly over the little sand hills and whatnot, okay, I mean, Yeah, you can do that and feel a little better about it. I one of the races, they were redirecting us around a guy who was broke down, and we were trying to winch out, and one of the track guys jumps up on the hood of my UTV, and he's like, "I'll help weight the front down." And because it's a race machine, and because I didn't buy it new and I bought it used, and there's all kinds of other story behind that one even, I didn't care that he was climbing on the hood and his boots were scratching it and everything else. I'm in a race. I'm going to scratch it. It's how it is. But man, I would probably have to be like held in by the harness before coming out and coming unglued at that guy if I had a brand new $25,000 machine and he's hopping up and down on the hood like a jackrabbit.
Yeah, it's true. Well, it's different strokes for different folks, and if you've got the wherewithal, it could be a very good machine for you. But I guess roundly, we're kind of underwhelmed by the 2018 lineup. I mean, I'm not saying any of it's bad. They haven't unimproved anything, but just small incremental changes. There's nothing out there that's absolutely earth-shattering. Well, I think that's going to do it for us this time. We're going to try and stick to the half-hour mark, and we're starting this out as a monthly affair, but if you guys are really gluttons for punishment, and gals, we could make it bi-weekly or, heaven forbid, even weekly if you guys really, really are just eager for more content, which
there's some messed up people in this world.
There are. So we're going to leave that up to you, but our faithful listening audience that we don't really have yet,
they're fictitious.
They're fictitious, but we appreciate each and every one of you. Well, we will be back for episode 2. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can steer yourself over to eminentperformance.com. We're also on Facebook at Eminent Racing and on Instagram at Eminent Racing. And we are not on Twitter because neither one of us really uses Twitter, so we've just kind of shied away from that. Anyways, want to thank you for listening. We will be back for another episode, and we'll continue to stretch this thing out. We got to make it past 7. That was the first goal, so I think we can make that happen.
We'll try. We can do it because no one's telling us we can't.
Sheer force of will or lack of common sense. One of the two will get us through.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you later.
Thanks, guys.
Small pond, big pond, the fish are the only difference. City out of harmony, lingering on the